protection and ISDS provisions in FTAs, while maintaining our right to regulate in the public interest, especially on the environment and labour standards areas.
Oh, you guys are in for a fantastic treat. And then again, depends on which way you look at it. You might not, especially when it comes to this thing about sovereignty. But anyway, hello there, my friends, and I do hope you're all well. As you all know, our Secretary of State for International Trade, Kemi Badenoch, was at Wednesday's final International Trade Committee meeting, trying to dodge difficult questions about how wonderful our shiny, brand new, world-beating trade deals were going, and in particular, the CPTPP one. Well, as the meeting was heading into its final home stretch, Labour MP for Brighton, Kemptown, Lloyd Russell-Moyle, got onto sovereignty, and more importantly, these ISDSs, or Investor-State Dispute Settlement Provisions. And that's when things got very interesting indeed. Oh, also watch for the young lady behind Kemi Badenoch. Her facial expressions are very enlightening too. Enjoy. Then again, maybe not.
I mean, we talk about sovereignty, and you talked a lot about that in your statement. But we have signed up to ISDS, which does allow foreign private companies to sue our government. I grant you that we have been on the lucky side of that regime to date, but other European countries have been on the very negative side, and that does allow a supranational body to regulate and restrict sovereign decisions of a country. When you met us last with Crawford Faulkner, you and he said that some information can be made available about the risk and benefits of long-term of these mechanisms. You haven't yet managed to get round to sending us any.
I did provide a response to the committee. I think I had one response with all of the questions.
But
I didn't hear that we didn't answer a question then. So sorry. This is
my understanding is that you answered the questions and said you've done the analysis. But I'm interested in what the detail of the analysis said in terms of the risks and benefits. Could you outline to me
in terms of
what the risks and benefits of
ISDS? So ISDS is very common in international agreements. The UK hasn't been lucky. It's because of the way that the rule of law.
Australia and New Zealand have explicitly opted out of them with CPTPP.
I don't think that is quite the case, because I asked about that. There is no carve out. It's just that we have bilateral. There are bilateral agreements that already.
There is a carve out for New Zealand because that was explicit for them signing up to CPTPP in the first place.
So I think that's a general way of describing it. When I spoke to the negotiators, they said there wasn't a carve out for New Zealand. That seven of the 11 countries they're already deals on ISDS, so it's not necessarily needed in terms of CPTPP, and that's why it's happened. But in terms of how it has impacted us, advantages and disadvantages, we have 90 countries, I think, and investments globally where we have ISDS. We've never received a successful claim from any investors of CPTPP countries or any other country that we have those commitments with. But also, it protects UK companies as well. So it's not a one-sided thing. Where the merits of an individual ISDS or which country it is, we can debate, but in principle, ISDS is not a bad thing. I think the question we should ask is, why is it that other European countries keep getting sued successfully and we don't? What are we doing right that they're doing wrong?
So, in principle, there is something wrong with the supranational court of the European Court of Justice being able to rule over us, even though the majority of cases went in our favour. But in principle, there's nothing wrong with a secret court that meets behind closed doors that could, in theory, overrule British policy doing it, because it hasn't happened yet. I don't quite understand I understand the practical argument that we've always been on the right side of the law, that it's worked for us and our companies so far, But the theoretical argument of having a supranational body that rules over us, I don't understand the consistency.
Because there is no inconsistency. ISDS cannot force countries to regulate. These are agreements which you have made. It's like a contract. If you break a contract, there needs to be some kind of system of arbitration. What we ensure is that we negotiate investment protection and ISDS provisions in FTAs while maintaining our right to regulate in the public interest, especially on the environment and labour standards areas. And that right to regulate is recognised in international law. So we don't think that there is an inconsistency. But there's a totally different issue with a contract where somebody is arbitrating a contract versus a supranational court that's looking at all of your regulation completely and forces you to regulate. It does not force people to regulate.
Well,
Sorry for laughing. I was just looking at her face behind Kemi Badenoch. Just hilarious.
it forces you to fall in line with something that might be out of date or
but
not
that
necessary.
whatever is out of date is something which you may have signed. You can come out of an agreement if you no longer require it. But these agreements are two-sided. These agreements are two-sided.
Yeah, so was the ECJ. I mean, so was many other supranational. All supranational agreements are two-sided.
I've already said I'm not relitigating.
No.
I'm not relitigating Brexit arguments. I'm talking about
just
how
trying to see a
ISDS.
consistency between the two.
I don't think that there is an inconsistency. I think we're talking about two totally different things.
I mean, do you not think there's a problem that these bodies meet in private and nobody knows their deliberations until they have finalised?
I think the fact that the UK has never been successfully sued and a claim made against us gives me a reassurance that this is a system that functions well.
And so is your view that we should just hold pretty and wait until we're sued, and it doesn't matter about the theoretical risk, it doesn't matter about doing a risk-basis analysis?
No, we do a risk-based analysis on a case-by-case basis, but what we can't do is just ask people for every single thing we want and tell them that they can't have anything that they want. These are negotiations, and what we do is come to a decent landing zone, which we think is fair and mutually beneficial to both sides.
So,
Kemi, put your phone on silent, you idiot.
And
New Zealand got side letters because their risk-based analysis was it wasn't worth the risk of giving up a bit of sovereignty, and it is giving up a bit of sovereignty. I mean, I support giving up a bit of sovereignty for greater goods in the end, but...
So are you talking about the bilateral FTA or CPTPP?
New Zealand on CPTPP did side letters with all the other CPTPP members that say an agreement from those members: we will not enforce ISDS against New Zealand. ISDS against New Zealand is null and void on CPTPP.
I think we should check whether that is the case, because I have asked and I've been told that that is not the case.
Well, I think that is, under international law, the case.
That there are no carve-outs, and
on the CPTPP
and where there is, let me finish, that where we have agreed to disapply CPTPP ISDS between our countries, it's because we have other agreements that come into force there. So it's not that they're just disapplying it, it's that there are other things that are there in place.
In the New Zealand and the Australian bilateral, ISDS wasn't included either. So with New Zealand, there are side letters that they have on with all the other CPTPP members, and our bilateral agreement with New Zealand also excludes ISDS. So why have we given special preferential treatment to New Zealand but not asked for that preferential treatment from other countries?
So that again is something which I don't think is quite the case, and I can get a more factual account of exactly what the status quo is, but I don't think it is quite as you present it. And again, there are provisions elsewhere which will cover the same sorts of protections which ISDS is supposed to provide, but these are things that help companies on both sides, and I don't think that they are a problem in the way that they're presented. I don't think that there is that inconsistency.
Why is there not a line in ISDS or any of this to require companies to at least go through the national courts, so that a national company has has to go through the same process as an international company?
I don't have enough information to answer that question. I think if we want to have we probably need an ISDS session to go into that level of detail. There's probably a very good answer, but I don't have it to hand.
Thank you very much. So interesting.
Jesus Christ, Kemi Badenoch, you're only Secretary of State for International Trade. But let's be honest. Now, when I first heard about these ISDSs in this conversation, I decided I'm going to have a look at these up because mainly I just wanted to find out what does ISDS mean. And I found out that, as I've said, these investor-state dispute settlement provisions allow corporations to sue states through a secretive parallel legal system if government policies threaten their future profits, even if these policies are aimed at protecting human rights and the environment. Also stated, corporations have already used ISDSs to sue governments more than 1,000 times, including over laws aimed at raising minimum wages, guaranteeing affordable water to citizens, and phasing out of the use of fossil fuels. It also states that the UK should avoid signing any new agreements containing ISDSs. These include with the CPTPP, whatever you like to call them. The UK has already got investment agreements containing ISDSs in places with Malaysia, Mexico, Peru, Singapore and Vietnam. Therefore, acceding to the CPTPP would entail extending the right to sue the UK state to investors based in Australia, Brunei, Canada, Japan and New Zealand. It's amazing what you pick up in and learn in select committee meetings, isn't it? And all that after hearing this conversation, and I read that on Parliament UK. Amazing. So, in a way, he's absolutely spot on about these ISDSs, isn't he? These investor-state dispute settlement provisions do affect and restrict a country's sovereignty, doesn't it? So, the next time you hear a complete belt-up Brextremist saying, I voted Leave because I wanted my sovereignty back, say, well, have you read about these ISDSs? And he'll go, huh? What? You know, these investor-state dispute settlement provisions. Go look them up. Then watch their heads explode. They probably won't understand anyway, but you could tell she got flustered, didn't she? Because from what I could see, she realised she fell into the trap of trying to defend leaving the European Union that, as far as I can see, has far more democracy than we do here, to join a trading bloc from the other side of the world that allows corporations to sue states through a secretive parallel legal system if government policies threaten their future profits, even if those policies are aimed at protecting human rights and the environment. And judging by the way Kemi Badenoch speaks, I don't think she really cares much about human rights anyway, or the environment, so she don't really care. But I did get the feeling when Lloyd Russell-Moyle talked about those side letters with New Zealand, Kemi Badenoch's reply was code for, oh dear, I have a feeling I might have made a bit of a major faux pas. You know, when she spoke about, you know, might have to have this checked out. Because for me, in other words, alarm bells were ringing in her ears and inside her head as well. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below. And until the next time, I shall bid you farewell and take care, my friends. Oh my God, we are so screwed, aren't we?